And we go now to Tom Suozzi of New York.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Politics in this country is perceived by the general public as being so divided on so many different ways, and it's such an honor to serve on this committee with you as chairman and with Mr. Engel as the ranking member. And also I want to associate myself with the compliments that were made about Mr. Smith earlier today and Karen Bass. It's really inspiring that so many people can work together in this committee to try and create a more just and safe world. And it's really a noble goal, and I hope it will be an inspiration to our colleagues in the rest of the Congress. I support all three bills today. I think they're excellent work by everybody who's put them together here. I'm a proud co-sponsor, one of the original co-sponsors of the Syria Civilian Protection Act, and I want to speak directly about that bill, that it's so important that we send such a clear message that we need to do everything we can in this country to contain the chaos and reduce the conditions causing this mass migration from Syria, to take this wind out of the sails of the extremists and to alleviate the human suffering. There has to be, every tool in the toolbox has to be used to try and address these underlying grievances of the millions of Syrians who are seeking meaningful political reform and economic reforms. The numbers speak for themselves that have been mentioned here today, with the hundreds of thousands of people that have been killed, the millions of people that have been displaced, and the war crimes that are being committed in this region are so horrific. And we need to do what we can to try and address this regime and their backers, particularly Russia and Iran. Syria is really one of the tests of our generation, and the tyrants of the world will take note of how we deal with this crisis, and our moral standing and our national security are at stake. This bill is a step in the right direction. It authorizes the White House to impose sanctions on the parties that enable the regime and its backers to continue their unabashed campaign against civilians. And these sanctions will be suspended upon meaningful political negotiations, thereby encouraging the ultimate goal of a diplomatic solution to this conflict. It also authorizes support for organizations conducting war crimes investigations on all sides, so that the truth and reconciliation can hopefully one day be realized. I do want to say, though, that we are still waiting from this administration to give us a Syria policy. While the April 6th missile strikes against the airfield in Syria were a decisive action that I supported, they were an isolated act and not a strategy. And we are left to have to wonder about how the administration will react to this crisis. We need to hear from the administration about how the ideas of safe zones that they are proposing will actually be implemented. After Assad's most recent chemical attacks, Israeli President Reuven Rivlin said in solidarity with the Syrian people, quote, "We know exactly how dangerous silence is, and we cannot remain mute," close quote, in reference to the international community's silence during the Nazi campaign against the Jews. Last week, I'm sure most of the members of this committee commemorated Yom HaShoah, and many of us reiterated that the lessons of the Holocaust cannot be forgotten. One such lesson is that under the cover of war, the most heinous and heart-wrenching crimes can be committed against the most vulnerable people. We cannot remain mute. So I'd like to again emphasize my support for all three of these bills, but I'd also like to again thank Ranking Member Engel and Chairman Royce for their leadership in advancing the Syrian legislation. Thank you very much.